1917 is a pretty good war movie to close off the decade. I know this review is being posted at the start of the new decade, but time is something I currently don't have. But anyways, the story takes place during World War I and follows two British soldiers who are given a mission to deliver a message calling off an attack, and if they don't get there in time, over 1,000 soldiers will die. I had a lot of high hopes going into this ever since the first trailer was released. It seemed like there was a lot being offered in terms of a war movie, and may even had a few twists to the genre, and I left the theater feeling mostly satisfied. Now, it's not a perfect movie, but I think there are more pluses than minuses. What makes this film stand out from other war movies is the masterful camera work. The whole movie is shot to make it look like one very long continuous take that's focused on our protagonist. It reminds me a lot of the camera work in Birdman, where they practically had the same style. But what made that one different was that it felt more focused on the upper half of every character, as well as being all handheld, and there were times where you could see where the cuts were, primarily when someone entered through a dark room or entered a doorway. But in this film, the shots are more carefully constructed, and they keep their distance from the actors, which makes sense considering they're walking in such huge spaced areas. As for the shots, it's really hard to tell where one starts and ends, so maybe I'll try looking at that upon a second viewing. If I didn't want Bong Joon-ho to win the directing Oscar for Parasite so badly, I'd say it's more likely for Sam Mendes to walk away with that award. The music itself is also tremendous, at least when it needs to be. It's gentle during the somber moments of the film, but it feels tremendous during the scenes with complete desperation and high stakes, like when one of the soldiers is running across a battlefield. And along with that, the film really does show the hurt and casualties of war, and in some ways I haven't seen in most movies. Without giving too much away, there's a scene where a character is dying from loss of blood, and the closer the person comes to dying, the paler their skin tone gets. A lot of films tend to ignore things like that, just like how movie logic says a defibrillator can revive you if you're dead for a few seconds, but in reality can normalize an irregular heartbeat. If I'm actually wrong about that, don't write it in the comments. However, where this film lacks is kind of with its structure and characters. We don't really form an emotional connection with the characters you're following, so it makes it hard to care about what happens to them or whatever adversity they face on the way, especially when one of the characters does something really stupid that kind of sets them back by a lot. I'm trying to keep that as spoiler-free as possible. I can barely remember any of the conversations they've had or what they've really done, and also the pacing can be a problem because it tends to slow down in sections, primarily in the third act, even though that's the sequence where things should be picking up, and they kind of don't. To put it simply, I admire this film more for the technical aspects than what's actually in the movie. I guess you could say it's more style over substance. Doesn't make it bad or anything, but I don't think it's like a 10 out of 10 rating I'm seeing getting thrown around by a lot of critics. For me, it's more of a 7 out of 10. But if you want to see a good war movie that wrapped up the decade nicely, check it out and see for yourself.